Well, let's stay around that expectations, price of petrol, the issue of debt servicing, which is supposed to be above or has been projected to hit more than 187 trillion naira this year is our concern as we delve into this conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of Flame Academy and Consulting Limited, Mr. Udemezue. Mr. Udemezue, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Welcome to the program. So I've heard a lot of...
Can you hear me, Ini?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Mr. Udemezue. So I don't know about you, but holding conversations on the economy and expectations for 2025, I've had some, well, high expectations. It's been more of optimism than, pessimism. I don't know, from your point of view, are you optimistic about 2025, talking about the benefit of the reforms, which the president has said we should be patient for?
Well, in life, we generally have to be optimistic just to keep us healthy, keep us hopeful, and keep hoping that one day things will get better. But looking at the budget that was announced for 2025, the budget for me is overly optimistic. It is over ambitious and looking to me nearly unrealistic. But despite that, we will keep hoping and praying that at some point things will begin to click. Talking about expectation, looking at the budget, of course, one would want to expect that government will do everything possible to reasonably widen the tax net without taxing people more, because the economy is not doing well at this point. We are running a very fragile economy with a very unacceptable level of growth. And the heavy taxing of companies at this point will chase more companies away from Nigeria. Quite a number of them have already left the country, with a few more threatening to leave soon. And as they leave a trail of unemployment, weakening domestic or aggregate demand in the economy. So the budget we have announced, we need heavier level of revenue to be able to even attempt to do it 50%. And beyond revenue, I also expect that for the first time ever, this government should take seriously the idea of cutting down the size of the government. The Oronsanya report was mentioned early in this government when their president took over, and we took it very seriously that in a few months' time, that report will receive a great attention, whereby a number of government institutions that multiply or duplicate functions will have been closed down now or merged together or something like that, done to reduce waste in this economy. Nigeria is an economy that is hemorrhaging. It's bleeding. And while we are trying to administer more blood, we are not making similar attempt to tighten the system and lower the level of bleeding in the system. Unfortunately, that does not give hope, for 2025.
Group that is optimistic about 2025, Mr. Udemezue, following your trend of conversation right now. I mean, when people see a reduction in the price of petrol, for instance, and see that now our refineries, at least the Port Harcourt and Warri refinery, are working to a certain level of degree, we still have Dangote even exporting, which should bring in FX into the country. Don't you think that this perhaps will give a bit of hope?
Oh yeah, the adjustment, the downward adjustment in the price of petroleum product is a positive for Nigerians. Maybe not for Nigeria as a nation, looking at the fact that we depend a lot on oil for revenue and oil income into the country. But for us, now that the subsidy has been removed, so to speak, you find that the lower the global oil price goes, the better for Nigerians and their purchasing power strength. And of course, that will also taper inflation in a way. So that's inflation positive if oil price goes further down. And one expects that as US pumps out more oil, I don't know if you can hear me, Ini. It looks like the network is, can you hear me, Ini?
Go ahead, Mr. Udemezue.
Okay, so we expect that as Trump takes over in US in the next few days or so, his government will likely put out more petrol, more crude oil, in the global market, and that will further drive global oil prices down, and that again will be a plus for the price of refined petroleum product. While that may not be a positive for our budget, which is benchmarked at about $75 per barrel, you may go lower than that. I see oil price globally going as low as $65, $60 per barrel when U.S. Get to the position they want to get to in terms of oil output and global supply. So there are a mix of feelings here and there. So the refineries working is obviously a positive for us. If the president can get the refineries to begin to work, we're going to be creating more employment here. We're going to be subsidizing nothing anymore, and then we're going to see, the pricing of our petroleum product being more properly done. And at the end of the day, the amount of dollar we use to import refined petroleum product will also reduce, helping our currency to come near to the 1,500 naira to $1, which is the benchmark for this budget. Otherwise, we will see the dollar going much worse, higher against the naira. So we need to curb every avenue of demand for dollar for import. And very importantly, if time will allow us, we also need to look at, I expect that the government this year will pay more serious attention to non-oil export. Export of agricultural products, solid minerals that have remained mysterious in this country. It's being mined, but we don't know what's going on in that sector. The solid mineral sector, the agricultural sector, vegetables, crop, grains, and so on. There are so many things we can export in this country, even education, if we are serious. That way, we substitute import with local production and also furthermore export more than oil and get more dollar in to enable our currency stabilize and give us a better a chance for quantum growth in our economy towards the $1 trillion economy, which we expect to have in less than 8 years to come.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, another area of expectation is the savings from fuel subsidy. We know as at November, it was said to be at about 5 trillion naira or so. I wonder what it is now. It would be good to have the numbers. And the government has promised us that it will be channeled towards infrastructure, If it's something we could follow to say, okay, it's the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for instance, it's projected to take this amount of time. I guess that would also help Nigerians to bear what they're paying for transportation and other logistics.
Yes, like I said earlier, there's so much the government can do as low-hanging fruit to get our transport system work better, because you find that inflation, travels much faster through the avenue of, transport, price of transport increase. It has a very fast effect, on inflation when the oil price goes up and price of transport, goes up. So if we can quickly work on that, not just to repair all our major roads, federal roads and so on, but also ensure that the rail system connects every part of this country. So that, like now, this festive season, you see a normal journey from Lagos to the east, for example, moving up from around 20,000 to 60,000. If our train system is working, that advantage, by suppliers of this service, we're not, undue advantage will not happen. But when the train system is regular, people can have different options, and therefore price stability will be more assured. And that's why we should stop looking at inflation management only from monetary policy point of view, where the central bank has, by the way, got to a level of monetary policy exhaustion. If we have other fiscal investments that will help alleviate or manage or abate the price game going on in the country, that will help us a lot. And that's why till tomorrow, I pick quarrel with the so-called Calabar-Lagos Coastal Road, which is quite strategic, by the way, but it's not coming at the right time, because we have several bad roads, Abuja to Kaduna, is it Aba to Calabar, or Enugu to, there are so many federal roads that are in very big, bad shape right now. Is it Shagamu to somewhere before Ore? So many of them in the east, west, north, and south. We have not done anything about them, and we're going into another big, for me, relevant project that is, not, due at this point. So that's the problem. And these things are going to run for several years before we see the impact. But if we can fix the existing roads right now, we can get the effect. Agricultural products can move from Calabar to Sokoto, through the rail system and all of that. And the high cost of food now, which are a major issue in inflation, food inflation, will come down in the short to medium term. And then we cannot talk about those bogus projects later. So our priorities are not right. And that's why I don't see so much hope in the budget announced this year. Mind you, as of June 2024 end, Nigeria had made only about 6 trillion as total revenue as at date. And then we had spent about 10 trillion servicing our debt. If you look at that figure very well, you'll find that it's a figure that gives no hope for this economy. So something must be done to reduce our rate of accumulation of debt and ramp up our rate of non-oil export and widening the tax net without increasing tax per se for individuals and companies. So the economy is dying, and we cannot afford to tax people much more right now. And as they all leave the country, we have a trail of unemployment following us, and the lower productivity, giving rise to low GDP, and therefore a poorer nation, poorer citizens, and so on. Something needs to be done differently from what we are doing. The reform of this government, gave us hope initially, but the way they are being implemented and instability in the policies are not giving much hope for 2025. But we still stay optimistic, watching to see that if things will change through all these contributions we are making here and there. Thank you.
Yeah, is there any way we can escape this more than 187 naira debt servicing for this year? Is there a way we can escape it? 100,
okay, you mean debt servicing?
Yes, it's projected.
Because this year we expect that debt servicing will take more than 20 trillion. You mean the debt service to revenue ratio that's currently above 100%. Actual, not what our president always presents as their hopeful. The actual is actually currently showing that we spend much more than our current revenue, our actual government retained revenue. We spend much more than that to service our debt, showing you that we must borrow to run recurrent expenditure, to pay salaries and so on, and do basic things in government offices. We must borrow to be able to do any single drop of infrastructure you see going on in this country today. And even at that, we borrow the money, for a project. What is the value of, secured, or what is the value got in all these projects? Issues around lack of accountability and corruption still pervade the economy or the polity. And these are concerns for me. So you look at a budget of 49 trillion thereabouts, where we say we will do only deficit of 13 trillion. But reality is that we did 10 trillion half year 2024. So there's no way we can do anything less than 25 trillion in deficit this year, even though it's being masked up with some figures that are, appear to polish things. But for me, in reality, and I bet you to check at the end of this year, we will not have done anything less than 20 trillion naira in servicing our debt. Because it is almost like every single week or month, the Senate, the National Assembly will have to approve new debt for this government. You remember that our president had a few weeks ago or months ago called for debt forgiveness again for Nigeria. And in the midst of all of that request for debt forgiveness, we are still spending as if everything is normal. We're not cutting down size of government. We are spending so much irrelevant money in a National Assembly and all of that, whether it's a security vote or whatever. Billions are being spent on individuals alone, while millions, hundreds of millions of Nigerians are going further down in their multidimensional poverty, which is very sad. So no reform in this country, I dare say, will work until we begin to go down our fiscal cliff, get more efficient and prudent in our spending, and become less wasteful in our governance. Yes, IMF and World Bank will always give us loan if we request. It's not their business to see. It should be actually moral obligation to see if this loan is even required to start with, or if government reform has gone to the level of trying to imbue efficiency in the system. IMF and World Bank, I'm sorry to say, don't so much care about how our borrowed monies are being efficiently applied in the economy. But they keep encouraging us that, our debt to GDP is still low, it's still below 60%, so we can borrow more. Onto what? How productive is our borrowing in the end. Otherwise, all of us are gathering more and more debt for ourselves, our children, and the children yet to be born.
All right, Mr. Udemezue, I know that a lot of people have talked about cutting cost of governance, and perhaps you can give us one or two examples of what you think can be done in the fiscal side to help the situation that is upon us.
Government should stop incentivizing bad politics. Cut down the size of political office holders and all the SA to SA, PA to P, and all of those things. Cut them down. You save a lot of money from there. Look at all the ministries, departments, and agencies of government that are doing almost the same thing. Some places, nothing is being done. Ajakuta Same Mill has not produced anything for several decades. Our refineries have been very redundant for several years, yet billions are being voted, both for the current expenditure in those places and the capital expenditure, which are just waste. People are staying in government work position without doing any work, and they're earning billions. How do we train them, incentivize their retirement and pull their effort into entrepreneurship? Don't forget that all the developed economies in the world, whether it's US or Germany, they are driven by entrepreneurship. But here, we're not encouraging that. We keep focusing on government, giving people jobs that are not relevant. People are redundant. People are ineffective. They are just sitting on government payroll, collecting money without doing anything. That must be addressed. We have more than 600 government parastatals that are doing almost the same roles. Some of them are duplicating role or multiplying. I don't want to call names here, but we know them already. Even the Oronsayan report mentions some of them, that they're going to be fused together or meshed together or even closed down entirely, because what they are doing are already provided for elsewhere, whether in the security architecture, and at the end of the day, because of corruption, we see nothing happening. So for me, to call down the size of government is not just words. We should put it to action. Call down the size of the government personnel so that we can cut down our current expenditure and the fake budgeting going on in this country. Cut it down. And for National Assembly, I don't want to say more there. We know already that that system is a very corrupt system of damaging this country. How can you be paying about 100 and some people senators an amount that can make more than 10 states, get revived and do better? It's unproductive. We are being selfish. We're incentivizing bad politics. That's why people kill today to win an election as a governor or a senator, knowing that once they do that, their life is made forever. That's not the way to go. In the same countries, politicians even earn less when they are serving government than when they are in private sector. There's no incentive to go there to serve except selfless service. But in Nigeria, it is selfish service. We kill people to go and serve them. There's a whole lot for us there, more than those who are going to serve. It's very sad for me.
You hope to see, some change that, I would make some differences and reduce the cost of governance in the country. Mr. Udemezue is the Managing Consultant and Chief Executive Officer of Flame Academy and Consulting Limited. Let's take a break now. Good to have you. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll have intraday's number, see how the market is faring this first full week, trading week for the year 2025. In a bit.